You're finally off work and it's nearing time for sleep, but something holds you back. You know your body would be thankful for some shut-eye, but instead, you switch on the TV, pick up your phone, and begin scrolling. You do this despite knowing your alarm will go off in 5 hours. Sound familiar? You're not alone. This is an example of revenge bedtime procrastination, and it seems to be affecting a lot of us. We'll lay out exactly what this phenomenon is, why so many of us are active participants, and what you can do to put a stop to it. What is revenge bedtime procrastination? Revenge bedtime procrastination refers to when you choose to delay going to sleep despite having no external reason for doing so. This might look like staying up until 3 a.m. scrolling on your phone, or binge watching a new series of your favorite show, well after your typical bedtime. You might either delay getting into bed, bedtime procrastination, or delay the time of trying to fall asleep once in bed, while in bed procrastination. Your electronics might be to blame for the latter. Both forms of sleep procrastination involve taking revenge on sleep for taking up your limited free time. Is it a new phenomenon? The feeling of wanting to take back me time, regardless of whether it affects your sleep, is nothing new. The term bedtime procrastination, however, was first coined in a 2014 study. 2 years later, the term began popping up on various Chinese social media platforms, likely in response to a growing frustration tied to long work hours and little time for leisure. Then, in the midst of the pandemic in 2020, journalist Daphne K. Lee tweeted about her discovery of the term revenge bedtime procrastination, and the phenomenon seized the Twitter community. Dr. Dasgupta says the phenomenon is probably more prevalent now because for many people, the COVID-19 pandemic has adjusted their daytime routines and in response, changed their nighttime ones.
So when we talk about this, we're seeing it a lot lately. Why? Because of that pandemic. And so what happens is this. When I think of revenge sleep procrastination, hardworking mother, college student, someone just working hard at their job, and finally they get home. And you know what? They look at the clock, and they're like, what is this? It's almost 10 p.m. at night. It's time to go to bed. And you do a little mathematics, what time you have to wake up next day, and you're like, I'm not getting that, but I didn't get a chance to turn off the engine, put it in neutral, and just relax, have time for myself. So who did they take revenge on? Poor sleep. Sleep didn't do anything to you, it's important. So they take revenge upon sleep, and how do they do that? They procrastinate going to bed.
While the research on the relationship between the phenomenon and the pandemic is slim, studies from India to Italy have found that COVID-related life changes have negatively affected sleep quality. Why do people do it? According to Dasgupta, it's a matter of taking back some of your lost autonomy.
I can relate because you do need time for yourself. And when we talk about a very broad word, good sleep hygiene, the bed is only meant for sleeping. You just can't go home and say, okay, I'm forcing myself to go to bed. Going to sleep should be natural. I love this word. You need to transition into sleep.
If you're working at odd hours, you're probably not taking the time to wind down after a workday. Instead, you might find that the first time you're able to take your mind off work is at bedtime. Wanting time for yourself, you might stay up later, thus throwing off your circadian rhythm. There's another possibility that has to do with our natural inclination to procrastinate. Research has found that our self-control is at its lowest at the end of the day. And so even though we know we should sleep, we don't have the willpower to do so. Instead, we procrastinate. On the other side, however, researchers say our self-regulation isn't all to blame. Rather, our biological preferences for sleep-wake times are. In other words, some people are just night owls and are more prone to delaying sleep, even if they have to get up early. Consider asking yourself why you do it, and it may help you discover ways to combat it. What's the health toll of putting off sleep for leisure? The biggest risk of revenge bedtime procrastination is sleep deprivation. And the time to worry about sleep deprivation, according to Dasgupta, is when it starts affecting you during the day.
What happens at night really affects what happens during the day. And look at my example of who's doing this revenge sleep procrastination. The students, the mothers and fathers trying to be good parents, people trying to do better at work. Well, if you don't have good quantity and quality of sleep during the day, it's gonna mess up with your mood. You're gonna be grouchy. No one wants to be grouchy or depressed or have anxiety. It can cause chronic medical conditions like having high blood pressure, poorly controlled diabetes. And definitely when you talk about taking a test or fulfilling a task, you wanna be the utmost accurate. You wanna have good memory, good recall.
How do you you stop revenge bedtime procrastination? Fighting revenge bedtime procrastination requires compromise, self-understanding, and good sleep hygiene. Everyone deserves time to themselves to unwind, rejuvenate, and restore. Research has shown that taking mental breaks for yourself increases productivity, improves mental processing, and encourages focus and creativity. However, if the only time for a mental break is time you need to be sleeping, it will probably do more harm than good. Dasgupta recommends finding the right balance.
Always want to say you're not alone. I think that's important to remind people because they always feel like, is something wrong with me? No, sleep is very individualized and you are human and everyone is going through so much stress lately. But like I said, try to find ways where you can get the best of both worlds. And what I mean by that is that sure, maybe binge watching your favorite Netflix till 3 in the morning is not the answer, but maybe it's going to be doing something that could be till maybe midnight, on certain nights. Or maybe it could be something where the revenge is not during the night, but waking up early the next morning and getting that exercise in. So I definitely feel you could think outside the box, definitely treat yourself or it's not going to affect what you do during the day.
He also suggests you stick to a consistent daytime and nighttime routine. When you wake, avoid hitting the snooze button. And when it comes time to sleep, start getting ready for bed earlier. Give yourself time to wind down and transition both mentally and physically. Stretching and meditating before bed, for example, has been shown to improve sleep quality. Simple steps toward getting a better night's sleep. The importance of having strong sleep hygiene, having both an environment and routines that promote quality sleep, can't be overstated, and the steps to better sleep hygiene are well researched and easy to put into practice. To get you started, here are some tips for getting a better night's sleep. Avoid screens an hour before bed. Avoid caffeine up to 6 hours before bed. Use your bed for sleep or intimate activities only. Have a consistent bedtime and wake time. Get exercise in the morning and sunlight during the day. Don't drink alcohol before bed, and keep your bedroom cool and dark. Revenge bedtime procrastination is nothing new, but has likely become more common in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Taking revenge on sleep in a search for me time is normal and expected. However, given the importance of sleep for your overall health and well-being, it's worth taking small steps to adjust your bedtime habits to avoid sleep deprivation. If you're worried that revenge bedtime procrastination is affecting your overall health, talk to your healthcare provider.